and therefore the money is dying. It's obviously dying in Venezuela. It's obviously dying in Argentina, but it's dying everywhere in the world, even in the United States and in Western Europe. So when you lose confidence in the money, then you start thinking about commodity monies. If I can't trust the bank, if I can't move the money cross-border, and if the currency is losing value every year or every month, then I start thinking about commodity monies.
In a recent move, Michael Saylor, the CEO and co-founder of MicroStrategy, a Fortune 500 software company, shared a chart on Twitter to address the criticism he faced regarding cryptocurrency. MicroStrategy has acquired more than 140,000 Bitcoin for nearly $4.17 billion. The chart compares the performance of Bitcoin since August 2020, when MicroStrategy adopted its Bitcoin strategy, with the S&P 500, Nasdaq, gold, silver, and bonds over the same period. The chart shows that Bitcoin's value has increased by 147%, while the stock market index, which tracks the performance of the largest companies listed in the US, has gone up by 23%. The Nasdaq has a 12% gain, gold has a 1% gain, while silver and bonds have decreased by 9% and 16%, respectively. Saylor faced harsh criticism during the crypto winter of 2020 due to the collapse of crypto unicorns. However, MicroStrategy's decision to invest in Bitcoin has paid off, with the cryptocurrency's value increasing by 55% in the first quarter of 2023. Despite the criticism he faced, Saylor has maintained confidence in cryptocurrency.
Please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to drop your comment and observations in the comment section below. Thanks and enjoy the video.
The thing everybody's been talking about is, what are the commodity monies? Is it gold? Are we going to trade oil? Are we going to move timber, soybeans? Well, what are your choices? If you want to move $10 million in gold, that's 350 pounds. So when it comes time to actually trade $10 million of gold, it's going to cost you $250,000 in insurance and shipping fees to move 350 pounds of gold. If I wanted to move $10 million of oil, that's 125,000 barrels of oil. That's $400,000 to ship the oil from New York to London. Okay, that doesn't make any sense, not to mention the fact the average person doesn't have space for 125,000 barrels of oil. You want to move, property, $10 million of property is an apartment building. How do I move an apartment building from Africa to South America to North America? That's not happening at all, right? So what about a painting? Okay, well, a painting's pretty efficient, a $10 million painting. The problem is it's physical, it's fragile, it's non-fungible, which means that it might burn, it might get soaked, it might get lost, it might get stolen. But if it doesn't get any of those things and you want to trade it to the rich counterparty in London, you're paying anywhere from $500,000 to $2 million in auction fees just to trade $10 million of money in the form of a painting. So, what do we have left, right? I mean, securities, you can't move $10 million of stocks across a border because they're trapped by the counterparty. Holding $10 million of an ETF at 50 to 100 basis points a year is going to cost you $500,000 to $1 million to store your money in securities. So now you see, what's $10 million of Bitcoin? 300 Bitcoin. So I can have 300 Bitcoin on a hardware wallet. I could, in theory, just remember it with a 12-word seed phrase. I can move it cross-border anywhere in the world. By the way, compare 300 Bitcoin as money versus a yacht. A $10 million yacht is 125 feet long, costs $2 million a year to maintain, and costs you $200,000 to move from America to Europe in about 4 weeks or 3 weeks. So you can see all the other forms of commodity money. They're not fast. They're expensive to maintain. They're physical. They're fragile, they're non-fungible, the fees are exorbitant. So if the world's struggling for a solution to commodity money, Bitcoin is the king commodity. It's better than every other physical commodity because it's digital, which means I can carry it in the palm of my hand. Try carrying 125,000 barrels of oil in the palm of your hand. It's better than that. And it's also better than every other commodity because it's scarce. It's a scarcity. If the price of oil goes up by a factor of 10, if the price of gold goes up by a factor of 10, if the price of anything goes up by a factor of 10, people, the collective intelligence of 8 billion people produce more of it, but Bitcoin is the one thing you can't produce more of. So Bitcoin's the apex money because it's scarcity and it's digital. And of course, it's the dominant crypto network in the world. It's the one that everybody trusts. It's the one that's truly decentralized. It's the one that's acknowledged as an asset without an issuer. So I think the meltdown of the banks and the meltdown of currencies is driving a stampede of smart money to Bitcoin.
During a shareholders' meeting, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway were asked about the U.S. government's plans to monetize national debt by printing money, which devalues the dollar for investors. In response, Michael Saylor noted that Bitcoin fixes this issue. This supports the idea that he was right when he introduced the Bitcoin strategy for his company as a treasury hedging asset back in August 2020. He also commented on the removal of bad money from the system.
Well, Bitcoin's market cap is about 500 billion right now, and the value of these financial instruments that I've talked about, all the other currencies, the securities, the properties, et cetera, it's 500 trillion or more. So Bitcoin is not 1%, it's 0.1%. So Bitcoin can increase by a factor of 10, and it's going to be a 1%er. And it can increase by a factor of 100. And by that time, there'll be a lot more of the other stuff. And so when Bitcoin goes up by a factor of 100, it'll probably be a 3-4% of the entire financial universe. The bad money that's get crowded out, David, to be clear, bonds, that's why they're crashing. Silver, that's why it's down 9% in 3 years. Gold, the reason that gold isn't returning any yield, why it's up 1% in 36 months of rampant hyperinflation around the world, is gold is now the glass money or the shell beads money or the stone coin money. It's just the gold bugs haven't quite got it through their head that it's antiquated, shiny rocks. All these things that are underperforming Bitcoin, they're the bad money. In addition, look at the peso. The peso used to trade 1 peso to the dollar. And today the peso is like 480 pesos to the dollar. So in 20 years, the peso has lost 99.8% of its value in Argentina. But in the past 12 months, it's collapsed by a factor of 2. And just last week, the Argentine central bank closed the doors and they said, you can no longer convert your pesos into Bitcoin on an exchange, because they realized, according to Gresham's law, that people are going to be trading their pesos to Bitcoin as fast as they can. You see this going on with the Naira. You see that going on all through Africa. You'll see it going on everywhere in the world. What's going to happen is a stampede from weak monies, but there's so many of them, right? I mean, bad stocks, bad commodities, overvalued fiat currencies. People are going to stampede from those to strong monies. But of course, if you're one of 7 billion people and you don't have a brokerage account with a big bulge bracket Wall Street firm, you can't just buy the S&P 500 index and try to custody $10 million of the S&P index on an Android phone in Africa on Saturday, right? You can't custody it. And that means you can't trust your counterparties. So what we're going to see is a steady, nonstop stream of monetary energy trickling from the weak monies and the weak assets to the strong assets. And Bitcoin just happens to be the strongest asset class in the world. Poorly understood, still not well understood, but it's a lot better understood when your bank freezes and they seize all your money and you're about to become bankrupt and or impoverished. Then it's easy to understand. It's harder to understand if you're a blue blood limousine, trust fund baby living in Upper East Side, and you've got a portfolio of NASDAQ or S&P stocks, and then you think it's just an oddity.
Apart from the hedge matter, Saylor often shares with his social media followers other fundamental aspects of Bitcoin, such as its traceability, visibility, and immutability, which offer a level of accountability that surpasses traditional finance. Despite criticism, Saylor's confidence in Bitcoin remains unshakable, especially in the current bull market, where he emphasizes the benefits of his company's Bitcoin strategy. He also discusses new developments in the Bitcoin ecosystem, such as Bitcoin oracles and the Lightning Network, and expresses his optimism about the future of the blockchain.
Bitcoin is going to be the last network operating. And so people are starting to renew their interest in Bitcoin. A lot of capital is migrating into the Bitcoin network. The combination of SegWit and Taproot laid the foundation for people to build more intricate and more interesting applications on the Bitcoin network. But for a number of years, the developer community was focused upon all the other cryptos, and that's because they could issue tokens in order to finance their development. And so it was a fast money, easy money shortcut, and they were being boosted by the FTXs of the world, because FTX had infinite money. Now I think people are starting to ask the question, what's the ethically sound, technically sound, economically sound path forward? Okay. And that's a slower path. It took Lightning, for example, many, many years to gestate and get to the point where people are starting to build material applications on it, because Lightning was supported by venture capital in a conventional fashion. There was never a Lightning token issued that could be wash traded by FTX in order to pump it to the moon. So with regard to ordinals and inscriptions, I think people are starting to ask the question, in addition to moving money on the network, what else can I do on a crypto network if what I wanted was to burn a transaction that is immutable, share it on a ledger to the entire world, and know that it will last forever, right? What sort of things do I want to be immutable for the next 100 years? And what Bitcoin represents is it represents the most powerful cyber network, or the most powerful computer network in the world.
Argentina's central bank has issued a directive for payment service providers in the country to cease their support for crypto assets. On May 8th, the Banco Central de la República Argentina stated that payment service providers are prohibited from conducting transactions involving digital assets that are not regulated by the competent national authority and authorized by the central bank. Payment service providers that offer payment accounts are not allowed to carry out or facilitate operations with such assets. The move comes as the Argentine peso continues to experience rapid debasement, with the currency down over 98% from its all-time high against the US dollar. Despite Bitcoin's all-time high in the country, facing inflation, rising interest rates, and reliance on the US dollar, Argentina may benefit from adopting Bitcoin. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.